Hello, everybody. This is Jim Skelly, and I'm glad to see you again. We were delayed this week, as you well know, because we had a very interesting conference in Strasbourg and didn't get back until late on Monday night from that conference. This is a conference that BCA Abroad sponsors every year on European-US relations, and this year tried to tie it to some of the concerns in the global conversation by looking at the differences in European and US environmental policy. Now, a number of students who were in the class from Derry and elsewhere, including Strasbourg, participated in the conference. I think it was all together, let me just get the numbers for you. There were over 50 student participants and speakers who came from, I think, 18 different European institutions and from 20 U.S. colleges in the United States. They were, some of the students were from France, Greece, Germany, Spain, Italy, the Netherlands. This was just the European students. We had a strong contingent of students from the European Students Forum, also known as AGE, that's its acronym. The conference was excellent in many, many ways, not least in that we were able to get, organize it so that students could engage in ongoing discussions with each other, and I think they're putting together a Facebook page to continue those discussions. From the perspective of the speakers, I think it was very interesting. At the very beginning of the conference, the person who opened it for us was a representative of the United States government. This is the Consul General in Strasbourg. And I think what was most interesting to me about it, he gave rather a standard official talk, and you came away with a sense, I think many of the students felt this way, you came away with the sense that in point of fact, the way he was talking was not going to lead to much change in environmental policy at a time when, in fact, we do need great change in environmental policy. That was highlighted quite profoundly by way of contrast by Mark Edwards of the Hard Rain Project. I've told you a bit about the Hard Rain Project in the past, but you can find more about it at hardrainproject.com. I'll also send you a link in the email that will follow the posting of this video. We also had Isabel Hilton there, the international journalist who is the editor of China Dialogue, which looks at China and the environment. And one of the things that she and others talked about at the first part of the conference was that China has really embarked, unlike the United States, on a plan to really green its economy, to cut down on carbon emissions significantly. And because of the centralization of power in China, they expect to do it. They've just issued a new 5-year plan, and you might want to take a look at that. There's information about that at China Dialogue's website, and I'll send you some information on that. We also heard from Professor Peter Schulze at the University of Göttingen, and he was talking about the various initiatives that Germany has engaged in, as well as the power issues in Europe. And one of the things that Peter said was that in the light of what has been happening in Japan, and I would urge all of you to take a serious look at what's going on in Japan, in light of what's going on in Japan with the Fukushima nuclear power plants, I think he thinks, and Angela Merkel, the Vice Chancellor, the Chancellor in Germany, has just ordered the closure of a number of nuclear plants in Germany so that they can be tested. This is a very, very serious matter, and it sets us up. We're starting in that part of the course, many of us who are looking at that nexus between energy and the environment. If you look on the course website under theme number 9 on resources, you'll find that there's some discussion about peak oil. And one of the things that people have been saying is that as oil reaches, our reserves of oil reach their peak, which many people put as now, that we will want to replace it with nuclear energy. Now, the problem with that, of course, is that nuclear waste cannot be disposed of easily and remains around for hundreds and hundreds of years. And there is always the problem of a nuclear accident. I'm old enough to remember Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania. And all I can say is that, we should all be paying attention to what's happening in Fukushima. It's now 1500 hours, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Greenwich Mean Time here. And the latest reports, just to go over those with you, there are 6 reactors nuclear reactors in Fukushima. Reactor number 1 has a partial core meltdown. Reactor number 2, a potential meltdown is feared. More serious at reactor number 3 is that there has been an explosion, a fire, and a radiation leak. Number 4, there's a fire, water, and the water levels are dropping. And as you probably understand, the water has to be there to cool the uranium and, in some cases, plutonium rods that provide the energy. So if that's not, if the water level's dropping, you can again have an explosion or a meltdown. And in numbers 5 and number 6, there are also problems with the heat rising. Earlier today, I heard that radiation levels are 5 times above normal in Tokyo, which is some distance to the south. But again, the authorities say nothing to worry about. I thought it would be interesting, given all of this, to give you some background. This type of reactor is built by the General Electric Company, and it's been around since the 1960s. Now, it has been the design of this reactor has been heavily criticized. And even in 1972, a safety official, Stephen Hanauer, with the Atomic Energy Commission, recommended that the Mark I system, which is what these reactors are called, be discontinued because it presented unacceptable safety risks. Among the concerns cited was the smaller containment design, which was more susceptible to explosion and rupture from a buildup in hydrogen. The very situation that some think may have in fact unfolded at the Fukushima plant. And later that year, Joseph Henry, who ultimately became chairman of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, said the idea of a ban on such systems was attractive, but that the technology had been so widely accepted by the industry and regulatory officials, he said that, quote, reversal of this hallowed policy, particularly at this time, could well be the end of nuclear power. Now, and these questions have continued over the years. In the mid-1980s, another official with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission asserted that Mark I reactors had a 90% probability of bursting should the fuel rods overheat and melt in an accident. Of course, industry officials, the nuclear industry, said, oh no, chance of failure was only about 10%. That still seems pretty high to me, I have to say, and I'm not too crazy about even 10%. And they're still defending this particular type of reactor. Now, one of the things you should know is that in the United States, there are quite a few of these. There are 23 General Electric Mark I reactors operating throughout the United States. That's 23 out of 104 reactors total in the United States. Let me tell you where they are. There's some in Alabama, North Carolina, Nebraska, Illinois, Iowa, Georgia, Missouri, New York, Vermont, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Minnesota. And since we have some students in Minnesota and Pennsylvania, let me tell you about those nuclear power plants. The one in Minnesota is called the Monticello, or Monticello, if you want to be a bit Italian about it. I suppose they pronounce it Monticello. But the Monticello nuclear power station is about 40 miles or 60 kilometers, if you're using that terminology, that measurement, northwest of Minneapolis. One local public person, official, worried, could it happen here? The short answer, according to one of the local papers there, is probably not. They aren't anywhere near a major fault line, and you're not going to get a tsunami in Minnesota. But you never know with such a system what might happen. Apparently, the staff at the nuclear reactor, they run safety simulations all the time. But they did it Fukushima as well. They drill for natural disasters, in response to natural disasters, including something that is common in Minnesota, tornado activity. In point of fact, last year, a small tornado passed over the Monticello nuclear power plant. But I'd be interested, we have 3 students in Minnesota, I'd be terribly interested if someone there would follow up, see what else you can find out about Monticello, and have there been any other safety issues with it. Now, more concerning, I think, are the 2 nuclear reactors at Peach Bottom in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is about 40 or so miles south of the Elizabethtown College campus, where we have a number of students studying in this class, and a number of the students who are studying abroad are also from Elizabethtown College. Now, these nuclear plants are run by Exelon Nuclear, and a spokesperson for them at Peach Bottom. These are the Peach Bottom, lovely name, Peach Bottom, and nuclear power plants. Unfortunately, could not provide a design standard for earthquakes at the 2 operating reactors at Peach Bottom. Now, people in that part of the world don't think that there's any chance of an earthquake, I know, but the most powerful recorded earthquake in Pennsylvania was a 5.2. Now, that's in another part, but in 1984, there was an earthquake in Lancaster that registered 4.1 on the Richter scale, and its epicenter was very close to Peach Bottom. So you want to be, you want to say, how much do they know, and how much risk are they really taking, and are we in danger? Now, there are some other. So I'd recommend to Elizabethtown College students, it might be worth getting a tour. Ask Exelon if you can come out and see the place, and let them try to reassure you if you have any doubts. Some of our other students are not so far from a couple of nuclear plants. Students who are studying in Hungary are about equidistant, about 200 plus kilometers from the Pax nuclear power plant in Hungary on the Danube, and the Bohunice nuclear power plant in Slovakia. The Pax nuclear power plant, just to give you some sense of how important these are, provides about 40% of Hungary's electrical power. Now, fortunately for students in California, not too much of a problem there now. There are only 2 operating nuclear power plants in California right now, one in Diablo Canyon and the other at San Onofre, a place I used to pass all the time. It's right off the motorway and right on the ocean. It's about midway between Los Angeles and San Diego. Now, there aren't any issues. There are different kinds of power plants, but the Peach Bottom one and the Monticello one in Minnesota, both are the Mark I design put together by General Electric. So those would be the ones to really take a look at, as well as the Laguna Verde nuclear power plant. We have several students studying in Veracruz, and I would urge our colleagues in Veracruz to let us know about this. The Laguna Verde nuclear power plant is in Alto Lucero, which is not very far from Jalapa, Mexico, or Veracruz City. And I have to say that last summer there was a report that said that this nuclear power plant had been operating for years with radiological equipment that is, quote, obsolete, damaged, or in poor condition. In a report that was sent to the Finance Ministry, it said the equipment constitutes, quote, a risk to radiation safety, and therefore a precursor of errors that can lead to severe accidents that would harm our personnel and equipment. And the report also said that 94% of the radiological equipment at the facility has been in operation for more than 14 years, increasing the risk of failure at the plant. So that too is an M1 design, and if our colleagues in Mexico would take a look at that and tell us what they find, that would be most appreciative. I'll start a discussion forum about it, and post some information there, and people can respond if they have further information. Now, let me also say that the broader issue here is the issue of the fact that we're running out of oil. You know, this, if you're looking at theme number 9 this week, one of the things that you're going to see several items that we've posted about peak oil. In other words, you know, we've reached the largest amount that we're able to source, and from now on, that resource is going to start dropping off. That may be enhanced immediately by the political upheavals in North Africa and the Middle East. As a colleague of mine said, what happens if oil goes to $200 a barrel from about 110, which is where I think it is now? It would mean the end of great, enormous disruption of our economies. And so one of the things you have to sort of think about is the extent to which we're dependent on this kind of energy. And again, it raises the question, how should we live on this planet? Right? How should we live? And is this our profligate use of energy probably has to stop. It's one of the reasons that we started building nuclear power plants in the first place. And you have to ask yourself, what kinds of risks are we running to lead the kinds of lives that we seem to be leading? I'm also going to post you a couple of articles this week, one that we used in preparation for the conference in Strasbourg. What makes Europe greener than the United States? And another one relevant to Pennsylvania, and this is a bit concerning, I must say. The new governor of Pennsylvania, a man named Tom Corbett, has turned over authority, the state's most critical environmental decisions, to a man named C. Allen Walker, who is a Pennsylvania energy executive with his own track record of running up against the state's environmental regulations. For those of you in Pennsylvania, I would suggest this is a very interesting article indeed. At any rate, I'll send it along to you with the email that I post shortly. I'll be talking to you again, probably posting again on Sunday evening. and I'll please, I'll be taking a look in the next couple of days at midterms if you've been submitting them to me. Anybody has any questions about anything, please get in touch. And I hope you're having a very good week. Thanks.